Good day everyone. Today we are going on a guided tour of the Cathedral of St. Vitus. It is located in the third courtyard of the Prague Castle. As the first, we will talk about the founders of this place, and so we will talk more about the predecessors of the present-day Cathedral of St. Vitus, in order to better understand the development of the construction of the present-day cathedral, which began in 1344. But the very first church on this side of today's St. Vitus Cathedral was founded by Prince Wenceslas in a year 929. It was a Romanic rotunda built on the Prague Castle Courtyard, and that church became the third church in the capital city of Prague. Although the Romanic rotunda of St. Vitus existed for only 1 century. The Romanic rotunda of St. Vitus was replaced in the 11th century of the basilica founded by Prince Pitineu in a year 1060, and the basilica served for the next 3 centuries. Gradually, a relatively large and fragmented complex of buildings was created here. In addition to the 3 nave with 2 choirs and transept, also included a chapter house with a monastic layout on its northern side, which extended to the present day. The build, a significantly larger and more representative basilica, contributed mainly to the growing demands on the Prague church, could no longer cope with a large influx of pilgrims, which prompted Prince Pitineu to found a basilica. However, the Prague city was also growing, and the Czech princes were probably already thinking about winning the royal crown. The basilica was built next to the existing rotunda. Then the rotunda was removed at a time when the basilica under construction was able to fulfill basic liturgical purposes. However, the construction was complicated, and the new building even burned down in 1091. Nevertheless, 3 years later, basilica was completed, and on April 14, 1096, was consecrated. Compared to the current Gothic Cathedral of St. Vitus, the basilica was significantly smaller. It was located in the northern part of the current floor plan and was visibly offset from it. The southwestern part of the basilica was already completed outside of the perimeter of the current cathedral, and its remains of basilica are still visible for the third courtyard of the Prague Castle under the raised platform east of the Royal Palace building. The year 1344 is the most important milestone of the laying of the foundation stone of today's St. Vitus Cathedral and the establishment of the archbishopric. King John of Luxembourg laid the foundation stone of the new church, the third in the same place, in the presence of King Charles. The construction of the new Gothic church was closely related to the elevation of the Prague bishopric to an archbishopric. On the day of the laying of the foundation stone, the first Prague archbishopric, Arnoš of Pardubice, also took on the insignia of his new office, the so-called pallium. This is a strip of cloth placed on the shoulders of archbishops, which is woven from wool obtained from lambs raised in a Cistercian monastery. The first builder of the cathedral was Master Matthias of Arras, by then an older and experienced architect who came to Prague from Avignon, from France. His first task were to draw up plans for the first part of the building, establish and equip a construction workshop, and secure a workforce. The construction probably did not fully start until 1345. Matthias of Arras led the construction until his death in 1352. By then, he had managed to build a wreath of chapels and a church gallery with arcades in the eastern part of the church. Matthias of Arras managed to build only part of the church gallery with chapels and arcades around the church at the level of the triforium. This oldest part of the cathedral was completed 8 years after the laying of the foundation stone, when Matthias of Arras died. Peter Parlage became the builder of the cathedral in 1356. The walls of the chapels became the basis of the external supporting system, which began to build together with the high church. Peter Parlage, who later spiced up the French Gothic style with a German influence. As was customary in previous centuries, the builders tried to use the structure of the original building as much as possible. Parlage also founded some of the pillars of the new Gothic cathedral on the probably modified foundations of the basilica and the Romanic chapter house near its northern wall. Many Romanic building structures and elements from the original churches have also been preserved below the floor level of the current building and were uncovered and made accessible during the archaeological survey, carried out as part of the completion of the cathedral. Thanks to this, archaeologists managed to obtain a very accurate picture of the location and ground plan of the older Romanic churches and the architectural historical context. The exact form of these buildings and their furnishings will never be able to be determined retrospectively. Modern drawings and models try to present at least their assumed shape based on known facts and available sources. We are now about in the middle of the Cathedral of St. Vitus. After demolition of the previous basilica, Peter Parlage built the beautiful and richly decorated St. Wenceslas Chapel over the grave of the founder of the Church of St. Wenceslas, and the St. Wenceslas Chapel has survived to this day. The Chapel of St. Wenceslas is the southern church chapel in the Cathedral of St. Vitus. Emperor Charles IV designed it as the central religious, ideological and artistic space of the church. It was built by Peter Parlage on the square ground plan, this changing the original project of the chapel with a triangular end by Matthias of Arras. The St. Wenceslas Chapel, it stands on the foundation of the Rotunda of St. Vitus, above the original tomb of the Wenceslas, St. Wenceslas. The chapel is two-storied, with an internal staircase in the thickness of the wall. The upper floor is formed by the crown chamber. With its layout, the chapel forms an independent sanctuary inserted into the gallery of the church, characterized by four functions: liturgical, coronation, funeral, and votive. The chapel was built over the grave of St. Wenceslas, prince and eternal ruler of the Kingdom of Bohemia, who has been resting here for more than 1,000 years. Originally, his body was buried in the apse of the Romanic Rotunda after being transferred from Stara Boleslav, which later became part of the so-called Spitnio Basilica. The basilica was demolished in connection with the construction of today's Cathedral of St. Vitus, but the same grave remained on this site. Peter Parlage made some changes to the cathedral and the overall concept of the building when he became the new architect and builder of the cathedral in 1356. 9 pillars of the arcade around the church, 8 polygonal church chapels, and 8 bays of the church gallery had already been built to the east behind the still existing Romanic basilica and chapter house. This part of the building was probably already vaulted, but it certainly did not exceed the level of today's triforium. Parlage continued with the construction of a high church with large windows and an external support system, but also continued with the completion further to the west, gradually demolishing the still existing Romanic basilica. And it was during this completion that a significant change in concept occurred. The cathedral is burial place of Czech saints, princes and kings. Saint John of Nepomuk and foreign saints such as St. Vitus and Saint Sigismund were buried in the previous temples and are still buried in this cathedral. The royal tomb in the St. Vitus Cathedral is the largest burial site of Czech monarchs. 14 Czech princes and kings found their final resting place here, and the sarcophagus of Charles IV, Wenceslas IV, George of Poděbrady and Rudolf II are buried here. Work on the three-nave Gothic cathedral was interrupted by religious storms in Bohemia and the outbreak of the Hussite Wars from 1419 to 1434. Parallel suns boarded up the torso of the cathedral with a plank wall, and the dome remained an abandoned torso in the middle of the castle complex, which lost its privilege as a center of power during the Hussite Wars. Further renovations to the cathedral continued from 1493 during the Jagiellonian renovations of the cathedral. King Vladislav had a royal oratory decorated with grapevine ornaments added and the upper cycle in the chapel of St. Wenceslas painted, which depict the legend of the saint. St. Vitus Cathedral also served as the main castle church. To this day, not only this architecturally unique royal oratory has been preserved in the cathedral, but also a covered bridge connecting the cathedral with the old royal palace of Prague Castle. The royal oratory built in its current form at the end of the 15th century will particularly impress you with its unusual and unique stone carving decoration in the cathedral, which resemble variously intertwined, knotted branches, tied ropes which may have been polychrome in the past. The authorship of the oratory is not known for certain. It is most often attributed to the late medieval builder Benedict the Great, but in the professional literature we also come across the claim that the author of the oratory is the stonemason and builder Hans Spies, whoever collaborated with Benedict the Great. The walls and vault above the oratory are among the oldest part of the cathedral, built by its first builder, Matthias of Arras. The oratory is actually set in a space that is part of the Arras wreath of chapels around the choir. Emperor Ferdinand II in 1630 had a wooden glazed box built in this oratory, which was later extended as a gallery-type extension over the neighboring chapels. A large-scale fire in the spring of 1441 destroyed the cathedral when the entire left bank, Prague, burned down, and the Prague Castle and the cathedral were also severely damaged, the western part of which and the northern Prague under construction even completely collapsed, and the church was also largely affected. This is also documented by the records of the canon and famous Czech chronicler Václav Hájek, who described the cathedral fire in a great detail. Only the torso of the south tower and the church remain from this cathedral. The grand plans for this completion had to put aside, and the priority became saving the building. And during the construction, something new was built, for example the Walmud Gallery. King Ferdinand made great efforts to complete the construction of the cathedral, as evidenced by records from 1537 and 1538. The fire marked a fundamental turning point. All further efforts of the Metropolitan Chapter and King Ferdinand were directed towards saving what was left of the impressive church. Despite numerous other attempts and several construction modifications, the torso of the church, consisting only of its church gallery, wreath of chapels and unfinished great south tower, remained after this fire and was preserved until the second half of the 19th century. The construction of the new music gallery took place in the years 1557 to 1561 and was already done in the Renaissance style. Its author is the builder Boniface of Walmud, whose design King Ferdinand preferred to the solution of the Italian architect Giovanni da Campoin. The king was impressed by Boniface Walmud's design and prized its very artistic, charming and suitable for a church. However, it was a very innovative undertaking. The western part of the hitherto stylistically poor Gothic church was suddenly closed by a distinctive Renaissance construction of an antique appearance, with two rows of arcade and columns with iconic capitals. And so it remained until the first half of the 20th century. Only after the completion of the neo-Gothic extension of the cathedral, which more than doubled its built-up area, was the last cathedral builder, Camille Hilbert, dismantled the Walmut Gallery around 1926. This act connected the interior of the Gothic church and the neo-Gothic addition to the three naves and transept. It is remarkable that the interior of the cathedral has existed its current form and impressive size, with a characteristic rose window in the west for only 90 years. However, Camille Hilbert preserved the Renaissance nave for the future generations and resembled its slightly modified form in the northern part of the transept, where we can admire it to this day, and it still serves its original purpose today. And it is from it that we can still hear the organ, the church choir, and the orchestra during church services. In 1859, the unity for the completion of St. Vitus Cathedral at Prague Castle was founded. The central figure of the neo-Gothic completion of St. Vitus Cathedral, embodied in the unity for the completion, was the Dean of the Metropolitan Chapter, Mons Antonín Podlaha. We owe the commencement and above all the completion of work on the Prague Cathedral to his enormous enthusiasm for the completion. Many people, church, private and state entities contributed to the construction, and apart from the National Theatre, the cathedral became the most important national building of the 19th and early 20th centuries. In 1929, the Cathedral of St. Vitus, Wenceslas and Adalbert was completed. It took a long 585 years for St. Vitus Cathedral to be truly completed. The church, in the construction of which more than a dozen of the greatest architects of their time participate, was consecrated and officially opened on September 28, 1929, in the presence of the President Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk and Archbishop František Kordač. The cathedral was opened by the one who was most responsible for its completion, Mons Antonín Podlaha. The cathedral appears largely stylistically clean and compact, thanks in particular to the Purist completion in the 19th and 20th centuries. In addition to the specific Baroque ending of the Great South Tower, the attentive visitor will not miss the processing of the sandstone blocks used for the construction of the western towers, the facade and the neo-Gothic free nave, which is visible regular, lighter and gives the impression of being practically machine-made compared to the medieval part of the building. The gap of half a millennium is quite striking here. The medieval church itself, including the supporting system, has been reconstructed several times, and for example only two small windows of the old treasury with original stone tracery have survived here, and unfortunately no original stained glass window. However, distinguishing the part built by Matthias of Arras from the part built by his successor Petr Parleš is much more difficult. However, upon closer inspection, it is largely clearly recognizable.